also joined us. Dandavat Pranams, Meera Mataji.
Dandavat Pranam. I'll sign out because I'm picking my prescription up. And as soon as I get in my car, I'll sign in again.
All righty.
Okay.
We look forward to you signing back in again.
Okay, thanks. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So let's get started with the brief prayers to the spiritual master, dear devotees. Thank you for joining the call, those of you who are watching us here on Zoom, as well as those of you who are on Facebook and YouTube. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjan-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanande Hare Hare Gaur. Okay, so give me one sense organ that you have.
Eyes.
Eyes, fantastic. That's what I was looking for. So do you want to have a feast for the eyes?
Yes, Mataji.
All right, let's coming up feast for the eyes.
Thank you.
This is the ISKCON of Silicon Valley Temple in Mountain View, 1965 Latham Street. And this is a picture from yesterday, which is the Narsingham Dev Chaturdashi. And so something special, the reason that I brought in here is, apart from the fact that such a beautiful right of pastel colors, they look so, lordships look so beautiful. I've never seen them look so beautiful. But the speciality over here is that this entire decoration was done by Srila Prabhupada's disciples. So which is Nirakla Mataji and Jagrini Mataji, who actually were celebrating 50 years of their taking initiation from Srila Prabhupada. So it's a half a century. It's a major milestone. And of course, there were others as well, Kanka Mataji, and then Mahaguru Mataji. Yeah, and then of course, people from our Garland team also helped them. Now, and I think Kanka Mataji is a seamstress. So she actually made the entire dress with her own hands. This dress she made, and then on this dress they have stuck these natural and fresh flowers. So you can see all these flowers over here, and you see this, how this Radharani's chunni on the side of it. There's all petals, right? All these are petals, petals, and then of course this one you see Krishna's chunni, wrapping cloth. You see how beautiful this is. It's all full of flowers. And what to talk about this Utsav deities that are here? This dress is completely flowers. I think for the first time, ISKCON Silicon Valley has done flower dresses. We don't do. I know other temples in India do that. And of course, their garments are flower. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is all flowers, and this one, Utsav deity, and then of course over here, all this is flowers. These are flowers. All these are flowers. So beautiful. So
Each flower, Mataji, was stuck with a glue gun.
Like
Yeah.
each flower, you put
Yeah.
glue gun, glow it, glue gun.
Yeah, glue, 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 glue. Yeah,
We do it for Radhashtami.
yeah.
Radha's
It's
dress.
so beautiful. Yeah. As you can see, Radharani, so all the flowers on the top of the head. She was looking very beautiful yesterday.
Mataji, can you post this picture on the group, in the group?
Sure. Sure,
Thank you.
sure. I can do that right now.
Yesterday. Yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. What is this our group called? Send it to you. Bhakti Vriksh. There you go. Okay. So
Thank you, Mataji.
you're welcome. Yeah, they were looking beyond beautiful yesterday. Okay. So after that feasting for the eyes is over, we'll go to our chapter today. And so which chapter are we doing in Bhagavad-gita?
5.
Chapter 5. Okay. And which words?
11.
11. All right. So
5:11.
okay.
Confirmed.
Right. Yeah. So 11 will come somewhere in the middle of next week, and which is Varshana Mataji's birthday. So we will just sing Hare Krishna to you right now. Hare Krishna to you, Hare Krishna to you, Hare Krishna, dear Varshana Mataji, Hare Krishna to you. Praying to the Lord that they bless you with increased devotional service and that you spend your time in increased devotional service when you come to USA. Looking
She's going
forward
to
to
come anyway. She got the green
And
card.
Ratnam's.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for reminding me. My birthday.
Okay, so we have Ankur Prabhu also joining us and Alisha Mataji also joining us here. And welcome both of you to the call here. We just finished wishing happy birthday to Varshana Mataji for her appearing on this planet for our benefit. And so this is all very good. Now, we were saying that we are going to go and read from Bhagavad-gita, and we said that chapter number 5, and I'll do a quick recap of the first 10 verses that we did, because we're going to go into verse number 11 today. So text number
That's
1.
me, Mataji. Jaya, my daughter's name is Alisha. So she uses my Zoom
I
account.
see. Okay, okay. All right.
Where
See,
is Alisha? Alicia is not
we
here.
get known by, we sometimes get known by our kids' names, right?
That's good, yeah.
And sometimes by our parents' names, right? Can you give me some names of Krishna where he is known by his parents' names?
Yashoda-nandan.
There you go. 500 points. You collected.
Devaki-nandan.
Devaki Nandan.
Vasudev.
Vasudeva.
Vasudeva.
Yes, yeah. Okay, good. Vasudeva. All right. So action, Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. Text number 1. Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work. And then again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?" Because it's a confusing instruction, right? And yesterday, anyway, the personality of Godhead replied, "The renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty armed Arjuna." Can you give me some examples of dualities?
Yes,
Heat,
ma'am.
cold,
Hot and
summer,
cold.
winter.
Heat and cold, yeah, summer, winter, correct. Only the ignorant speak of devotional service, Karma Yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. So here in this text, Krishna is kind of talking at a very high level, and what he's saying is that those who think that they are different, they're thinking like children, ignorant. So Karma Yoga is different from Sankhya Yoga. So working in devotional service and analyzing this material world, which the Gyanis do. He is saying that both of them will lead to the same conclusion, to the same goal, right? But you have to remember that this is just the 4th, 5th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. He will continue to clarify based on the intelligent questions that Arjuna is going to ask. He's going to clarify and elaborate more and more on this, right? He just said that both will lead to the same goal. So if you have to go to Delhi, you can from Bombay, then you can go in a bullock cart and you can also fly. The destination will still be the same, but the route that you're using are 2 different routes. They're both leading to the same goal, but one is faster, right? And less dangerous, like that. Okay. So that is what Kṛṣṇa, he just said they're leading to the same goal. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and therefore who sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Although always working, such a man is never entangled. Who's going to give me the Sanskrit for this? Okay, give it to us.
Indriyani.
Yoga yukta.
Yoga yukta vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaḥ sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvan api
Alipati.
Kurvan api na lipyate. Okay. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Prakritiya kriyamanani gunaya karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimūಢātma kartaham iti manyate. Right? 3rd chapter, we read that. It's the same thing in a very, very... Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. And so same 3.27, kartaham iti manyate, is ahankara vimūಢātma. Right? So ahankara, that verse talks about ahankara vimūಢātma. But then this is the other opposite of that, a person in divine consciousness. Right? One is a person in ahankara vimūಢātma, thinking himself to the body. He's thinking like that, right? So this one, naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manye tatattvavit pashyan shrinvan sprishan jigran ashnan gachan swapan swasan pralapan visrijan grihnan unmishan nimishan napi indriyani indriyarteshu vartanta iti dharayan. Right? This is one of those musical verses that we should recite every day. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. This is also a very famous Sanskrit verse that we often quoted. Brahmanyadhaya karmani saṅgam tyaktvā karoti yaha lipyatena sapapena padmapatram mivambhasa. Right? Now is today's verse. So text number 11. Kāyena manasā buddhyā kevalair indriyair yoginaḥ karma kurvanti saṅgam tyaktvātma-śuddhaye. Kāyena manasā buddhyā kevalair indriyair yoginaḥ karma kurvanti saṅgam tyaktvātma-śuddhaye. Kāyena manasā buddhyā kevalair indriyair yoginaḥ karma kurvanti saṅgam tyaktvātma-śuddhaye. Kāyena means with the body. The body is called kāya, right? So kāyena, with the body. Manasā, with the mind. Buddhyā, with the intelligence. Kevalair, purified. Indriyair, with the senses. Even, even. Yoginaḥ, Kṛṣṇa conscious persons. Karma, actions. Kurvanti, they perform. Saṅgam, attachment. Tyaktvā, giving up. Ātma, of the self. Śuddhaye, for the purpose of purification. So, what is the Sanskrit for if somebody is performing, doing some action? What's the Sanskrit from here?
Karma.
Kurvanti.
Kurvanti.
Right, kurvanti. They perform, they're doing it, right? Okay. And what is the Sanskrit for with, if you're using your intelligence, with intelligence?
Buddhyā.
Buddhyā. Correct. And what is the Sanskrit for body?
Kāyena.
And what's the Sanskrit for the self or the soul?
Ātma.
Ātma.
Right. And if something is purified, what will you say?
Śuddhaye.
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 Why would you say Śuddhaye? Why would you say that? I said purified.
Oh, kevalair.
Because purpose of
Kevalair.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Kevalair means purified. And Śuddhaye is for the purpose of purification. Purification is Shuddha, but Śuddhaye becomes for the purpose of, right? The word gets changed, right? Okay, transformed. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so the yogis abandoning attachment act with the body, mind, and intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When one acts in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the senses of Krishna, any action, whether of the body, mind, intelligence, or even the senses, is purified of material contamination. There are no material reactions resulting from the activities of a Krishna conscious person. What does that word say?
No material reactions.
To whom? For what? There are no material reactions for whom? For what kind of work?
Any activity performed by a Krishna conscious person.
Conscious person, correct. Therefore, purified activities, which are generally called sadachar. Sad means good, achar means behavior. Therefore, purified activities, which are generally called sadachar, can be easily performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.187, describes this as follows. Iha yasya hare dasye karmana manasā gira niklavasva apya avasthasu jivan muktaha sa uchyate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, karmana manasa gira, right? Mind, intelligence, and words is a liberated person. Jivan mukta, even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. He has no false ego, for he does not believe that he is this material body or that he possesses the body. He knows that he is not this body and that this body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna, and the body too belongs to Krishna. When he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc., whatever he may have within his possession, to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna. He is one with Krishna and is devoid of the false ego that leaves one to believe that he is the body, etc. This is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. Hari Om. That's it. Comments? Reflections? What are your thoughts from what we read up till now? Any comments? Any difficulties performing like that?
Sounds like sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sarvam vraja.
Okay. And
Surrendering
why would you comment that? Why will you connect that with this verse?
because I'm surrendering whole body and mind and everything to you. So that's what I thought.
Very good. Yes.
And whatever I have, my wealth, or anything, I will surrender to you,
To Kṛṣṇa.
to Kṛṣṇa. And I'll make Kṛṣṇa himself, I think that his whole thing belongs to Kṛṣṇa. I didn't earn anything. I didn't make anything. That is not I. That's Kṛṣṇa.
Right, right. And Kṛṣṇa is going to tell that in the later part, or actually the last verse of this chapter. Kṛṣṇa is going to come back and he's going to tell us that Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhrit sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. So he says that I am the enjoyer of everything that you do. So as long as we understand that Kṛṣṇa is the enjoyer, number one. And number two, that Kṛṣṇa owns everything.
He wants everything.
That's also very important here, right? Let's go back and look at this verse a little bit more, kind of, analyze and dissect it, right? So, iha yasya harer dase karmana manasā gidha. So, iha means here, right? So, when he's saying here, that is basically he's talking to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is describing, and he says, iha yasya harer dase, here, because he's writing when he was in this planet, right? So he's talking about when whoever is here in the material world, if he becomes a harer dasya. So das seems to be like, oh yeah, I'm das. But in the real meaning of the das, it's a very difficult thing to be anybody's das. Right? It's people sometimes think that, oh, it's a very glorious and easy thing and a very exotic position to be Srila Prabhupada's personal servant. It's very difficult. It's very difficult even to be somebody's driver. Forget about personal servant. Why do you think it's difficult to be somebody's driver? A rich man
Because
driver.
the ego comes in the way that how can I be someone subordinate to someone?
Okay, so subordination is one issue. But why would, suppose somebody is the driver for Dhirubhai Ambani. Okay, one of the rich people in the world. What's wrong? He's got 15 beautiful cars. What's wrong about being his driver? Why do you think one would not?
He doesn't own the car. He doesn't own the car.
Uncle? Okay. Okay, he doesn't own the car, so yeah, okay. So you get that feeling that I'm driving it and I wish I had owned it, so the temptation is there. Okay, what else?
Mataji, I was thinking sacrifice, because sometimes you might not be in your health also or tired as well, and you still have to do it.
You still have to do it, right? Dhirubhai Ambani has a flight to catch, and so you have to go there at 4 o'clock in the morning. Mangal. Aarti time and drive, right? People might think that, being the driver is a very nice thing. You get to drive all the nice cars, but there is so much of hard work over there as well. So, harer dasya. Forget about being Dhirubhai Ambani's das. Harer dasya is even difficult. You can't even see him, right? So, you become a das by karmana manasā gira, right? By your actions, by your mind, gira. So, niklav apya avasthatu. Ashva avastatu jivan mukta sa uchyate, right? So even in this material world, he is still, in this avastha, in this situation where he's engaging in various kinds of material things, he is a jivan mukta. So when people talk about liberation, it doesn't mean that you have to die to be liberated. Some people are scared that, oh, I don't want to be liberated because I'll die, which is a childish thing because you don't understand the concept to be saying such a thing. But then, if you understand it, then this is a nice thing. It's a welcome thing. It's like a kitten, going into the mouth of the mother cat, right? No, it's the mom is taking me to a nice place. Similarly, the devotees look at death in that way. So, Niklav apyavasthatu jivan mukta saucha. So that's what he's doing. And then he knows that he is not he's not this body, right? Fine, we know that we are not the body. And he has no false ego. Right? And then, sorry, all these screens are coming on top of me, so I'm not able to read. Yeah. He knows that he's not the body and that his body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Kṛṣṇa. So this is a very interesting thing, to think that you belong to Kṛṣṇa, right? If I belong to Kṛṣṇa, it's a very nice and exotic way of putting across things like, hey, yeah, I belong to Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa mera hai, main Kṛṣṇa ki hu. Right? It's very difficult to even, belong to our spouses. Because if something belongs to you, if you look at a child, right? If you look at a child, and you give a doll to the child, and the child plays with the doll, and the child can do anything with the doll, right? Hang it upside down, tear apart, pull off the hands, pull the hair. They can do anything because the doll belongs to them. It belongs to you. You can do anything that you like, right? So when you're saying that I belong to Krishna, that was the mood. That was the mood of the gopis. When they said that, you do in Shiksashtakam, last verse, right? He says that he calls him a lampat. Lampat is a debauchee. He said, you are a debauchee, but what can I do? I have given you my heart, and so you can do whatever you want to do with me, right? And the same mood, the same gopi mood, because they knew that they belonged to Krishna. So what is there for me to protest, right? If he's being debauchee with me, then let him be a debauchee with me. I'm his, right? So that same mood was exhibited by Srila Prabhupada when he bored the Jalduta, right, from Calcutta to come to America. And he wrote a poem on the way, right? And in that poem, he says, now make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. Because he's going there to an unknown country at age 69 with barely any money, with nobody that he knows there in America. And he's going there just because it was the instructions of his spiritual master. He's doing that, right? And he has faith in Krishna and complete surrender to Krishna to say that you make me dance, right?
Better in your hands, that's what he says. Is it right?
Correctly, yeah. And then with that kind of a mood of surrender, when he gave to Krishna, imagine how much happy Krishna was and how much he reciprocated with that, right? The rest is history. We don't have to think about that, right? So again, we see another story in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, we come across the story of Sanatan Goswami, right? Shakur Khas. So they were actually Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami. They were brothers, and their parents were in Bangalore. So they were Brahmins. They were Brahmins by birth and of course by activities also. And they later on they moved to Bengal, and they got into the service of the Shah of Calcutta, Nawab Hussain. But they were very intelligent. They could speak 9 different languages, including Persian. They were very good at their work. They went into finance. And so they used to take care of the affairs of Nawab, where the Nawab was busy fighting the wars in other parts of India. So he would give his thing. So one of the things that happened at that time was that if you started working for a Muslim, then you were given a Muslim name. So they were called, Dabir Khas or something forgetting, and then Shagura Khas. Yeah, Dabir Khas and Shakur Khas. Then later on, they became Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami. And so anyway, so when Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they come to Krishna consciousness, or the Krishna consciousness gets revived, they stop going to Nawab Hussein's court to do the work. They bring all the Panditas into their homes and Brahmins into their home, and they start having Krishna Katha. And Nawab didn't like it because he was so reliant and dependent on these two to run the kingdom for him while he's out doing the making war. And so he sent his people there to his home to ask them, they are sick, but tell them when are they going to come back. And the person comes there, and the court person, and he says that, sees that they are having Krishna Katha in their homes. So he goes back and tells Nawab, so if they are hale and hearty, nothing is wrong. So he gets angry and puts them in jail, and then, he escapes from the jail, and all those kind of things happen. So anyway, finally they meet by walking all across the distances. They finally come to meet our Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Sanatan Goswami, he had contracted some disease of the skin because of which there were boils all over his body, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to hug him, and so he used to feel bad. So he contemplated committing suicide by falling in front of the wheels of the Rath Yatra, the big Rath. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's living in everybody's heart. So he knew what he was thinking. And so he tells Sanatan Goswami that, you know what? You cannot do that. Your body is mine. Your body belongs to me. You cannot do that, right? And then the same thing also applies to us also. For those of who are initiated, their body belongs to their spiritual master, which means that they cannot commit suicide. That's an important thing for all devotees to understand, all disciples to understand, that no matter how bad it gets, no suicide business for them. Right? This body belongs to Kṛṣṇa, and we have to honor whatever comes with the body, we take it. And once we go deeper into the philosophy, we understand whatever is happening to the body is because of certain things for which only I am responsible and not Kṛṣṇa. So we don't have to throw the blame on him, right? So we rely on this bodily concept a lot. We are always on this bodily concept of life, but it has to be given up. And that's why, because the body belongs to Kṛṣṇa. So in the order of the activities that the devotee has to perform, health is the topmost. That's what Prabhupada said. Health is the topmost. You have to first take care of your health, and then take care of the rest, because this is a body. Now remember, this body is a tabernacle. Tabernacle means a walking or a moving temple, right? So why is it a temple? Because Vishnu lives in our heart as Paramatma, right? So he lives in our heart. So this body is a temple. That's why we're not supposed to touch other people with our feet, not supposed to kick them, right? Because you're kicking a temple, which is a very bad thing to do, like that, right? So so he himself belongs to Kṛṣṇa and the body too. So he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, everything that is there. He just uses it in the service of Kṛṣṇa. And a very important and a very interesting story we come across in the Bhagavatam and also in the Bhagavad-gita. Prabhupada makes that comment that there was a king known as Kulshekhar, right? And Kulshekhar utilized all his body parts, right? All his body parts were used in the service of Kṛṣṇa. Why? Because it belongs to Kṛṣṇa. The body belongs to Kṛṣṇa. So the best thing that I can do with the body is to use that body in the service of Kṛṣṇa. Okay. So he would use his legs to go and walk to the temple. He would use his hands to wash the temple. He would use his nose to smell flowers that have been offered to the temple. He'd use his skin to touch bodies of the devotees, and so on and so forth, right? So utilizing everything, the body, the mind, the intelligence, words, life, wealth, whatever, right? In fact, in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, Kṛṣṇa says, Mayyeva mana adhasva, Mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivashisya mayyeva, atha urdhvam na samsaya. So he said, Mayyeva mana adhasva. So put your mind on me. Adhasva, situate your mind on me. Mayi buddhim niveshaya. Engage your intelligence also on me. Mayyeva mana adhatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivashisya mayyeva, atha urdhvam na sansaya. So if you engage your mind and your intelligence in me, then you will live in me. Do not doubt about that one. And then immediately after that, Kṛṣṇa says, Atha chittam samhātātum na saknoshi mayi siram abhyasa yogena tato mamichhaptum dhananjaya. So he knows. Kṛṣṇa then knows that he knows, okay, so you guys are there, and you won't be able to put your mind on me all the time, the jivas. So he says, okay, atha chittam samhātātum na shaknosi mayi siram. So if you're not able to engage your mind and keep it still on me, I can engage my mind on Kṛṣṇa for like 30 microseconds, like that. And then the mind goes away someplace else.
Where is sloka?
12th chapter.
12.8.
There you go. So, so he says, Atha chittam samhādhātum na saknoshi mayi siram abhyasa yogena tato mamichhaptum dhananjaya. So he says that if you cannot engage your mind in me, then what you do? Abhyasa yogena. Engage in practice of devotional service. Practice it. That's what we are doing. Sadhana bhakti. Sadhana means to practice. Abhyas means to practice. So we are practicing devotional service. Devotional service doesn't come naturally to me. Doesn't come naturally to us. It's not that I get up in the morning 100% eager, jump out of the bed because I want to go for Mangal Aarti. No. When the alarm rings, I want to pull the blanket still further over my head and try to push the alarm on the pause so that it will repeat after 10 minutes and I can have 10 minutes snooze more, like that, right? Why? Because it's abhyas that we are doing, practice we are doing, practicing bhakti. And it's okay. It's better to practice than not to practice at all. So abhyasi yoge na tato mam ichhaptum dhananjaya, mam ichhaptum. Then you will get the desire to achieve me or attain me. Then he says, all right, people are going to come and complain that I have to get up in the morning. I have a call. I slept late in the night. I hardly have a time. No time to do the 16 rounds that, Kṛṣṇa, you are prescribing me. Then Kṛṣṇa said, yeah, don't run away. He grabs us by the collar. Abhyase api ashakto si mat karma paramo bhava madartham api karmani purvam siddhem avapsasi. So he says, okay, if you can't do abhyas, then Baba, do something for me. Do something for me. Come once in a while to the temple, do the dishes. Come once in a while to the temple, drive somebody to the temple, chop some vegetables, like that. Do something for me. And then you'll attain perfection. Mam ichhaptum dhananjaya. Abhyasi api mat karma paramo bhava madartham api karmani kurvam siddhim avapyati. So you will get siddhim, perfection. Then he says, okay, now you're going to come and tell, but I work on Sundays also. And I have my family, and I have to take my kids out, and I have to do grocery shopping. I have to do laundry. Then he says, okay. Athetadapi ashakto si kartum mat yogamāśritaha sarva karma phala tyaga tatha kuru yatatvaman. Like the most difficult thing. So what did he say? He's saying, okay, so now if you are saying that I will not be able to do work also for you, then all right, fine. But you are doing some work, aren't you? Okay, so you are saying that you have meetings also on Saturday and Sunday. All right, fine. You must be making a fat paycheck. All right, open your purse. And instead of spending all the money on yourself and your family members and your near and dear ones, take out the purse and give something to me. Most difficult task, right? So very, very difficult. And the more money that you have, the more dash is it to give money to Kṛṣṇa. Hard. The more you have, right? There's this very nice story that one of the teachers was telling the other day, that there was a temple, and there was a line formed to go and take darshan of the Lord. And the arti had completed, and the kirtan was going on. And so the arti plate was being, circulated in the temple for people to take the arti and also to put some money there. So there was this guy. There were two guys. One was behind. Mr. A was in the front. Mr. B was behind. So Mr. A was very affluent, very nicely dressed, and had golden rings and diamond rings and all that, a lot of money. And so when the thal comes to him, so he sees the thal coming, so he knows that he has to put some money there. So he takes out the purse from the back pocket of his pant, and so it's a wallet, and he opens the wallet, and then it's stashed with notes, 500, 500, 500, like that, right? And he's like, going through that because he's looking for the smallest one, right? Like a 10 rupee. Where is the 10 rupee? I'll put that. So he takes out the 10 rupee, and then he puts the purse, purse back into his pocket. And then somehow in all this shuffling and all that, what happened was that one 500 rupee note fell down. And then all this happened, it took me some time to narrate it, but all this happened very quickly. So the person at the back, he went and he tapped, the person in the front, like, hey, Prabhuji. And then he's like, what? Hey, Prabhuji. So then he turns around. And so by the time all this happens, the thal has come to both these people. So then the person at the back is showing this 500 note, and this person has his 10 rupee. So when this person shows the 500 rupee note, and so Mr. A takes his 10 rupees, puts it in the thal, takes the 500 from this man, and also puts it into the thal. And then this guy, and the thal goes, and then this guy is saying, oh, Prabhuji, but this was your money which fell down. I was just trying to return it to you. So even if you don't want, if Kṛṣṇa really wants to take it, Kṛṣṇa will take it. See, Kṛṣṇa is very smart. You can't outdo his smartness.
He knows
like
everything.
That.
He knows
right?
everything.
He was being very, very smart. Like, let me go through, let me pick up the smallest thing that is there. It's very difficult to part with the money that you have. Yeah, very, very difficult here, right? So if we go back to our verse from today, and let's go back and look at it again. So on the top, they were talking about the yogis abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. Kevalair, right? Kevalair. So attachment, so obviously here, and we talked about attachment in the previous verse also, right? And we said that although living in the material, you're not attached, right? And example that was given of not being attached, what was the example that was given last week for not being affected by anything? Go back, look at the verse, those who have the book in front of you.
If you perform your duty without attachment.
You should perform your duty without attachment. And then further, what example did they give?
Like you'll be like a lotus which is untouched by water.
Exactly, like a lotus untouched by the water. That's very, very important, right? That you have to be like that. Attachment, right? And then regarding attachment, there was this story about, did I tell you the story about Chitraketu last time? Anyway, I'll just repeat it again. So Chitraketu was a king, and he was a very powerful king. He's a huge kingdom, but there was only one thing that was lacking in his life, and that was that he did not have a son. And for a king, it's very important for him to continue the reign, right? And the lineage. So he really wanted to have a son. And so he didn't get a son, marry one wife, didn't get a son, move on to the next one, get another one, get another one, get another one, get another. That way he had many, many wives, right? But he didn't have a son. So one day, Angira Muni comes to his palace. Like these rishis used to go and visit the king. So King Chitraketu takes good care of Angira Rishi, and then Angira Rishi is happy. So he says, well, thank you so much. I'm really impressed, very happy that you have taken such good care of me. And I see that, you have got a nice kingdom, people are prospering and everything is nice, but I see that there is a sad look on your face. So what is it? Why are you so sad? So then the king says that I am sad because I don't have a son. Can you please do something so that I can have a son? And then Angira Rishi says that, well, I can tell you the method how you can get a son, but this son is going to give you happiness as well as distress, both harsh and shok. So he does not realize that part. He's just happy with the part that she's going to have a son. Somehow or the other, he's going to have a son. So then Angira Rishi does a yagya, and then he gives a mango or a fruit that comes from the yagya, and he gives it to Chitraketu, said, give it to your wife, and she will conceive. So then Chitraketu gives this to his first wife, obviously. The first wife always remains the first wife and the principal queen. So he gives the fruit to his wife, and in due course of time, the wife gives birth to a son, Harshashoka. And he is overjoyed. He opens up the treasury. He gives away gold coins and clothes and everything to everybody in the kingdom. Is rejoicing. The whole kingdom is decorated. Everybody's very happy. And this boy is very sweet, very beautiful, very cute. And he starts to grow up, and he's the apple of the eye, everybody's eye. And the king is so much enamored and so much attached to his son that he wants to spend as much time as he wants with his son. So as a consequence, he ends up spending as much time with his wife, the first wife, right? Because the son is with the wife and the nurses around her. So now this was not liked by the other queens, because now king is not paying attention to them. So they get envious. And envy can be so strong that they all gang up and they decide that let's kill this child because he's the root cause of our misery. So one day when the nurse had put the child to sleep, they mix something, some poison or something, and they give it to the child. And the child dies. And the nurse is thinking that he's sleeping. And the queen is in the other room, she's relaxing. So after some time, a couple of hours, the child doesn't get up. So the queen then asks the nurse, is like, okay, the son has not, woken up. Why don't you, it's a long time he's been sleeping. Why don't you wake him up? And we'll give him some milk. So then the nurse goes there and sees that the child is dead. His eyes are rolled open and rolled and up, looking up like that. So she falls down and she starts wailing. And so when the queen hears the noise of this wailing, she rushes to the room and she sees what has happened. So she falls down and she starts crying. Now, all this crying is going on. So everybody from the palace rushes to this room and they know. And then somebody rushes out and goes and tells it to the king who's in the other palace. So they bring the king. When king hears that, he comes running. And when he sees it, he falls down, he faints. And then after some time, he wakes up, he looks at the child, again starts crying and again faints. So this is going on and on and on. Attachment to the child, he's wailing. And while all this crying is going on, two mendicants come into the palace. They're dressed, very simply. And the king looks at them and he starts to cry again. And then they're asking, like, what has happened? Like, this child, my child has gone. And then both of them, look at him and then they say, well, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. And then he says, no, you are mendicants, you are powerful, you're devotees of the Lord, you're close to the Lord. Please bring my son back. So they say, okay, we can bring your son back, but it won't be a permanent thing. No, I want to ask my son, why did he leave us all and go? This is not proper thing. I want to talk to him. So Angira Rishi then, brings the child back. And so the child who was dead, once the soul comes back into the body, child gets up and sits. And then he looks at Angira and he says, why am I here? So the Angira says, well, I brought you here because your father wanted to ask you, why did you do such a thing as leave everybody and go away? And then the son Harshashoka looks at Angira and he says that, which father? I've had so many fathers in my previous lives. I don't know which father you're talking about. So when the king hears that, then the reality starts to dawn in his mind, right? And then to cut a long story short, it is revealed that these two mendicants are nothing but Angira and Narad Muni. And then Narad Muni gives him the Gyan and encourages him to go and focus his attention on devotional service to Kṛṣṇa, right? And the king understands that. And when all this Krishna Katha is going on, actually, the other wives of Chitraketu who had killed the son because of envy, they also understand the folly and the mistake that they did. So they are also very repentant. And then everybody goes, cremates the body, and then they take a bath in the Ganges and they are purified. And then they come back home, and then the king leaves and does a lot of penances. And finally he reaches, goes back to Godhead ultimately. That's a longer story there, but I'm just giving you a part of the story to emphasize the fact that there is attachment and what attachment can do to you, right? It's very, very important for us not to be overly attached. That's a very interesting thing that King Chitraketu, who was there, he was such a powerful king, right? And a good king also. He just didn't have a son. And he was a devotee. He was a very exalted devotee. That's why within 7 days he was able to see, within 7 days he was able to see God face to face. And so the interesting thing is that he was so much attached. And Angira and Narada gave him the Gyan, but they could have done that in the first place also. In the first visit itself, when he asked for a son, Angira could have given him advice, sound advice, and then asked him not to focus and get into all this lafra and just get into devotional service, right? But the thing is that you also have to be, if the guru is trying to tell you something, you also have to be in a situation and in a mood to receive the instructions of the spiritual master. So Chitraketu at the first instance was not yet ready to give up his attachments. It was only when the son died and he understood the futility of those attachments. So sometimes in our lives, we have to go through bad phases of life to be able to understand and be in a consciousness where we are ready to listen to Krishna Katha. And that is a difficult route. So the better thing is that we should just be ready to accept Krishna Katha in the beginning. Just listen from others who are advising us to take to Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, the route can be a very difficult route that we have, right? So here this verse is saying that the yogis abandoning attachment act with the body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. And also here, an interesting thing is that some interesting verses that are there, right, which talked about this particular concept, that they are trying to be purified and they're going to use everything that they have in the service of Krishna. And so very famous is Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate, right? That is Rishikesh. What is Rishikesh? Who is Rishikesh?
One who controls the
Krishna.
senses.
Yes, and who is it?
Krishna.
Krishna, right? Rishikesh, right? Rishikesha Rishikena Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. So Rishikesh, the one controller of the senses, Krishna. Rishikena, his senses, right? His senses. So you have to think about serving his senses. Okay, that's a very important thing. Otherwise, if we try to do things here and there, then there is a difficulty. And that's why there's a very nice verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which I'm going to bring up over here on your screens, which is from the 4th canto. Atmendriya priti vancha tare bali kama Krishnendriya priti icha dhare prema nama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Atmendriya priti vanche tare bali kama Krishnendriya priti icha dhare prema nama. What does that mean? Atmendriya priti. Atma means self, my own indriya, right? So my own indriya. So I have a desire to satisfy my own senses. Atmendriya priti is the desire, the attachment, right? I want to, for the pleasure of my own senses, I'm attached to that. Tari bale kama. That when a person has got his aim is the satisfaction, or he does things for the pleasure of his senses, then that act is known as kama. Kama, right? Krishnendra priti icha dhare prema nama. But if you are doing your things for satisfying Krishna's senses, Krishnendriya priti icha. Icha means you have a desire, right? But when you have the desire to please the senses of Krishna, then that activity is called prema. Dhare prema nama. So prem and kam. So if somebody asks you, what is the difference between love and lust? Right? Difference between love and lust. And that is something that you can even see here in this mortal world, right? A person can love their spouse or use the word, I love my spouse, but it's actually lust. And the real love is, when you try to do things to please the other. So it can be practiced at home. And ultimately we'll get into the habit of pleasing Krishna. Right? Atmendriya priti vancha tare bali kama. So that's very, very, very important thing to keep in mind. So let's go back to our verse over here and see what is he saying? Abandoning all attachment, right? So attachment, we talked about what happens, right? Attachment, act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. So purification is the main aim that I want to do. So what is it? What is it that purpose of purification, right? How is it? How do I get purified? How do I get purified? What is the step? What are the steps that are there? What activities purify you? Okay, let's put the question that slightly differently.
Doing some austerities, Mataji.
During some austerities will bring purification. Very good. What else?
Seva.
Seva will bring you.
Chanting, prasadam,
chanting,
eating
prasadam,
prasadam.
right? So there are activities of devotional service, right? That will bring in purification. And so I'm going to share PowerPoint because it has a verse which talks about that how you go from wherever we are, whatever consciousness that we have at this point, all the way to prema of Krishna. And prema is Krishnendriya Priti, where you want to satisfy the senses of Krishna. Okay, so let's go there and let me start sharing this now. Okay, so share the screen. It's an old PPT. I have showed it to you many times a couple of years ago, but we'll do a recap, a nice recap for us here. Okay, so what is this verse saying? Adau Shraddha tatha sadhu sango tha bhajana kriya tato anartha nivartisya tato nishta ruchis tatha atha saktis tato bhavas tatha prema budhanchati sadhakanam ayam premna pradur bhave bhavet kramaha. So what he's saying is sadhakanam, sadhak. Who is a sadhak? Sadhak is one who is doing sadhana. Sadhana is practice. When you do any practice, why are you practicing? Because you have a goal, right? For example, I don't practice how to play the harmonium. I'm practicing it because I want to be able to play any kind of tunes that I like that. So that's practice. Similarly, I'm doing practice in devotional service. So adao means in the beginning. So in the beginning, there is Shraddha. That means in the beginning, you come to Shraddha Mataji's classes. I'm just kidding. So adao Shraddha means that in the beginning, you have some faith. And that faith will come, either you heard, or that faith will come from somebody's causeless mercy on you. Adau Shraddha. So when you have a little bit of a faith, then you will start to hanker for sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha means you will try to go for devotional association of devotees. So this association, sadhu sangha, is very, very important because depending on the kind of sangha that you have, you can turn out to be this way or that way.
Yeah.
Right. For example, Bhaumasura. Right. There are suras and there are asuras. Right. Suras are devotees of the Lord and asuras are not devotees of the Lord. Right. So sometimes we confuse and use the term Rakshas, asura in the same breath, but they are not the same. Right. Asura is one who does not believe in God. And Rakshas is a cannibal. He's a cannibal. Rakshas eats human beings, right? So Rakshasi, Shuparnika, right? Rakshasi can eat human beings, right? So Asura will be somebody looking like you and me. There's nothing like they have horns on their heads or anything like that. They don't believe in God, right? So next time you're on the road, just watch out for Asuras. So we have, So he's saying Sangha, right? So if you get in the Sangha or association of Asuras, no matter where you are, what lineage you have. And we see the example of that in Srimad Bhagavatam, where there is a story in the 10th canto of Bhaumasura. So Bhauma is the son of Bhumi. And Bhumi is the mother, who's the father? Vishnu. So Bhumi is a devotee of the Lord and Vishnu is Lord himself. And from them, there is Bhaumasura, who is born, right? So Bhauma is born and then he becomes an Asura. Why? Because he was in the company of Banasura. Bana is another Asura. So by the company of that, then he goes and does certain things, steals this one, steals that. And then Krishna himself kills him, actually. Kills his own son. Like that. So association. And where we always say sadhu sangha, right? Where Prabhupada gives the example that if an iron rod stays in the association of fire for a very long time, it starts to behave like fire, right? So similarly, if you are in the association of devotees, you will start to behave like devotees, isn't it? You come to ISKCON temple and within 2 days, you're addressing everybody as Mataji and Prabhuji's, right? You never did that. right? Especially for those coming from India, we would never do that. Calling somebody Mataji is what the servant maids do. Servants do that. They call us Mataji. I am the Mataji. How come? I'm not going to call anybody Mataji, especially somebody younger than my age. No. Why? Because of the ego that we have. And in Krishna consciousness and ISKCON, what Prabhupada is encouraging is that you develop the mood of being the servant of the servant of the servant of everybody. Like that. Okay. So Adar Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangha Tata Bhajana Kriya. So Bhajana Kriya, what is Bhajana? So Bhajan is not, it doesn't mean in this verse that you are doing Bhajan.
Glories of Kṛṣṇa.
So what I'm saying is, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean Bhajana Kriya here, doesn't mean that you're doing Bhajan glorifying Krishna. What Bhajana Kriya here means is that you are now going to do devotional service in a proper, structured manner. Otherwise, people will say, sometimes if I get up on time, then I pray. Right? Yeah. If there's time, I'll take a shower. And I'm Krishna's, Krishna is mine. We eat from the same plate. I offer it to Krishna and then I eat. I taste it and then give it to Krishna. Like that kind of thing. No. Bhajana Kriya, you're going to do things in a proper manner, properly. Right? And then anartha nivritti syat. Then the anarthas will start to go away. Right? So once you have the faith in the association of devotees, when you start practicing Krishna consciousness in a structured manner, then the anarthas will go away. Anartha nivritti means you will become liberated from the anarthas, the bad habits that you have. And that is why you will see that people come to Krishna consciousness and ISKCON is so open. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there to give the love of Godhead to everybody, right? Sumi was asking that question last week, that, he give the name freely to everybody. So we come there, and if you have the Shraddha, if you have the faith, and you're doing this, practicing this devotional service in a proper manner, then the anarthas go away by themselves. You don't have to do anything. Why? Because of the saṅgam, because of association of the devotees, you are getting the characteristics of a devotee. And after some time you say, I don't know, when did the onions walk out of my home? When did I give up eating garlic? Like that. Don't talk to me about chicken like that. Anartha nivritti will happen, right? Tato nishtha. And then there will be steadiness in your devotional service. Nishtha means that every day I get up at 4 o'clock. Every Janmashtami, I'm going to fast. Every Ekadashi, I'm going to fast. Steadfastness in devotional service. Now you're becoming strong. People cannot move you here and there. Then Ruchi. Ruchi is?
Taste.
What is Ruchi?
Taste.
That is
the taste, right? You develop a taste for eating it. For example, when I first came to America, I could not understand avocado. What kind of a fruit is that? It doesn't, and now over a period of time, you develop a taste, and I like avocados a lot. So similarly, when you have a taste for something, then you do it spontaneously. Otherwise, it's a chore. Right or right? What do you say?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely right, right? So the idea is that you should have the ruchi.
taste.
Right? And then after ruchi comes the asakti, right? And we saw asakti, who was asakt, who had a lot of attachment. Asakti, just now we talked about Chitraketu, right? So Chitraketu had a lot of attachment. Okay, so now what is asakti? Asakti is the opposite of the attachment. It is attachment, but it's the opposite of the kind of attachment that we have in this material world, right? So what we are doing is that we are giving up all our attachments to the mundane things, and we are focusing on Krishna. So asakti, they also define as, you cleanse the mirror of your mind. Can you give me a verse that talks about cleansing the mirror of the mind?
Cheto darpanam.
Nirvapanam Shriyakeram Chandrika
Vitaranam
Vidyavadhudanam
Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam
Sarvatma
Sarvatma snapam param vijayate.
Shri Krishna Sankirtanam.
Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Right? So Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So he's talking about that first you have to cleanse the mirror of your mind. Cleanse the mirror of your mind. And asati is that the mirror of your mind is made so clean. It is so clean that every time Krishna is reflected in the mirror of your mind. Think about that situation, how beautiful that is. Every time. That is asakti. So in asakti, what will happen is that this is attachment, and then after asakti, you get prem. So prem is just, after asakti, you get bhava, which is, a little bit more attachment, and then intensified bhava is the prem, right? So asakti is attachment. And so attachment basically means that, you are going somewhere and you look at a gray color cloud, right? And when you look at the gray color cloud, you will start thinking about Krishna. That is attachment. You look at something yellow, you'll think about Krishna. You hear a music, you look at a musical instrument, you will think about the flute, like that. So that is the attachment that you have for Krishna. So asakti, right? So here, what we are saying in the verse that we have for today, they are saying that you should give up the attachments, right? Give up the attachment. Yogis abandoning the attachments that they have, and they act with their body, mind, and soul, even the senses, only for the purpose of purification. Right? And the very beautiful verse that we sing, right? Shri Vishnu Shravane Parikshita Bhavu Vaiyasakir Kirtane Prahalada Smarane Tadangri Bhajane Lakshmi Prithu Pujane Akrurastvabhivandane Kapipatir Dasyeta Sakyarjuna Sarvasmatma Nivedane Balirabhut Krishna Ptirecham Vacha. So what he's saying is that these are various people who achieved Krishna in different ways, right? So Shri Vishnu Shravane, using his and dedicating his sense of hearing. Parikshit. So Parikshit achieved Krishna by dedicating his senses, listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Shri Vishnu Shravane Parikshit Bhavut. Vaiyasakir. Vaiyasakir is the son of Vyasdeva. Who is the son of Vyasdeva?
Sukdev Goswami.
Sukdev Goswami.
Shukdev
Right?
Goswami.
So Sukdev Goswami, Kirtane. He used his tongue and his mouth to glorify the Lord by speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam. Both of them achieved Krishna, right? Prahalada Smarane. He was constantly thinking. Why? Because he was not allowed to do things openly. He was born in the family of a demon, right? Prahalada Smarane. Tad Angri Bhajane. Angri means the feet, right? Angri Bhajane. Serving the lotus feet. Who? Lakshmi. Prahalada Smarane Tad Angri Bhajane Lakshmi. Prithu Pujane, Prithu Maharaj through the prayers. Akrurastva Abhivandane, Akruras by the welcoming that he does. We read that in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, right? When he's gone there to fetch Krishna, how he does that. Akrurasta Abhivandane, Kapipatir. Kapipatir means the king of the monkeys. Who is the king of the monkeys?
Rama.
Hanuman.
Hanuman.
Right, Hanuman. So Kapipatir Dasye. So Kapipati became a das and a servant. And in the beginning of the class, we had noticed how difficult it is to become somebody's servant.
Das.
But he was the das, ready to do everything for his Lord, right? So Dasya Tasakya Arjuna. And Arjuna, by being the friend of Krishna, he became, and a friend supported Krishna in his desire for fighting the Mahabharata, and he went ahead and killed his own people for his right? And then Sarvasvatma Nivedane. So the verse that you said, Vindhyamali Mataji, Sarvdharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. That's what Bali Maharaj did. Right? So when Bali Maharaj was out there, he had conquered the whole world, And so he was ruling over the whole world, which means the heavenly kingdom also. So Indra was defeated. And so that's why Vishnu comes as Vaman, right? Born of Vaman Dev. And then Vaman Dev comes there, and Bali Maharaj has done a big yajna, and he's giving away things in charity. So he goes there, and so Bali Maharaj is very cute. People love him, it's very sweet dwarf. And then Bali Maharaj says, okay, what do you want? And he says, I want 3 steps of land, right? And his spiritual master, Shukracharya, understands this whole thing, and he knows that this is Vishnu. So he turns to Bali and says, no, don't. He's Vishnu, he will do that. But then Bali Maharaj, he's a devotee, in his mind, he's thinking like, okay, so Vishnu is asking me something, I should give him. And then he says that 3 steps of land is going to be very little.
Cute steps.
Ask for something more, right? And then, of course, the rest is history. Okay. But what I want to emphasize here is that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when he says that ask for something more than 3 steps of land, Vaman Dev actually tells Bali Maharaj that these senses will never be satisfied. You are saying more, so how much more is going to satisfy me? Never. Just give me 3 steps of land. And then, of course, yeah. So this is a very important thing that we have to keep in mind, that the senses will never be satisfied unless they are engaged in the service of the Lord. And that is why the yogis, what they're doing, they're abandoning all the attachments, and they engage the entire body, the mind, intelligence, even the senses, they will just go and do that, right? And that is when, you will get the happiness, and you will get peace of mind. And there's a very nice verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm just trying to remember. Yeah.
Mataji, the shloka which you just recited, it is from where?
Okay, I'll send that to you.
Okay, please.
I will send it to you. Yeah, okay. We sing it actually in ISKCON Silicon Valley every time, before Prasadam. Yeah. Okay, so this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 19, which is a very important chapter there. And so it says, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ateva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakala Ashanta. What it means? Because the devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruitive workers desire material enjoyment, jnanis desire liberation, and yogis desire material opulence, and therefore they are all lusty and can never be peaceful. If you want to have real shanti, then you engage your service, be like the devotees, abandon all senses. We saw the story of Chitraketu, how anxious he became. He was anxious in the beginning, didn't have a son. And then when he had a son, he became even more anxious. Right? So this is the nature of the material world. This is how it's going to give us. But if we engage everything in the senses of the Lord, this is how it's going to happen. There's a very nice story that talks about, there were these gopis who were supposed to go and carry some food for Durvasa Muni. And it is said that this Durvasa Muni is not the Durvasa that we know of, the one who is angry and, does all kinds of things. It's different Durvasa. So they are, they have to cross the river and go to the other side, and the Yamuna, so they have spent the whole day preparing food and all that. And now the Yamuna, the tide has risen and they can't cross the river. So they are afraid, and how do we? So they turn to Kṛṣṇa and ask him, like, how do I cross? So he says, okay, nothing. You just go to the Yamuna and tell the Yamuna that, if Kṛṣṇa is a brahmachari, then you part and make way for us. So they go there and they have all the food baskets on their head, lots of food they had made, all of that, and they carry it on their head, and then go there and they pray to Yamuna and says, Kṛṣṇa, Sadeva brahmachari. And Yamuna says, yes, Kṛṣṇa brahmachari. She parts and makes the way. These gopis are astonished. They have no idea what is happening. Like, this guy, he spends the nights with us, and now like that. So anyway, they cross over there and they meet Durvasa. He's very happy. And they give him all the food, and he eats all of it. He eats all of it. And then it's time for the devotees to return back. So he brings them to the shore. And then they look at the river. The river is again flooded with water. And they're like, oh my goodness, when we came, Kṛṣṇa had asked us to say, and then how are we going to go back? So they explain that to Durvasa. So then Durvasa says, okay, no problem. Just go and tell Yamuna that Durvasa nirahari, means he doesn't eat anything. And these gopis are thinking that he just had 6 baskets of food. And he's saying, Nirhari didn't eat any food. So he goes there. They go there and they say, Durvasa, Nirhari, and Yamuna parts. And they go there, they're completely baffled, right? And then later on, Kṛṣṇa explains that this is what is called as using your senses in the service of Kṛṣṇa. So when this exalted Muni was even honoring the prasadam, he was doing it for the satisfaction of Kṛṣṇa's senses. So he's a Nirhari, he doesn't eat anything like that. So very difficult feat to perform. But it starts with cooking what Kṛṣṇa likes and not cooking what we like. Sometimes it's like, today I want to eat this, so let's, let's
Every
I like
day
this
is like
only
that,
because-
Mataji. Every day, isn't it?
Like that, yeah. So slowly, it's sadhana bhakti. Then when it becomes spontaneous bhakti, it will become very different, right? I know of a bhakti, she left and she's gone to Texas now. Once we were going for the Rath Yatra in San Francisco, so we all carry food for Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. And she didn't have a car, so she was going to ride with us. So she came to my home, and I think she had some trouble at home also. Meat and all was cooked, so she didn't want to cook at a place where meat was cooked. So she said, can I come to your home and cook? I said, okay, yeah, please come. And then so she came, and then she had a recipe, and then she started making that. And she said, yeah, I was researching last night to see what Kṛṣṇa likes. And I was like, wow, I was cooking something which was like, what can we cook very quickly? Won't spoil, and what can I do in my busy schedule? Like that. And here she was researching what Kṛṣṇa really likes, and she found out that some puris with chini and, you fry it, and rice puris and all that he likes, that she made it. Serving for Kṛṣṇa. Like that. Okay. So I'll stop here and take some reflections. Anything that comes to your mind? Any questions that you have?
I like that Guru Ashtakam prayer.
Abandoning attachment is so difficult, Mataji. Totally, I mean,
Yeah.
you
And the
maybe
recipe for that, the recipe for that, it is difficult. And the recipe for that is start attaching yourself to Kṛṣṇa. That you can do consciously. And this will go away. Vishaya vinivartante nirharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. When you get a higher taste, you will give up the lower taste.
Lord.
But Mataji, we are very much attached to our parents and then siblings and then so on, like our relatives, friends. So how is it really difficult to get detached from all this relation at a time?
Yes, people do. And just like I said that, when you look at a sura and an asura also looks like us. He won't have horns in his head, right? Similarly, attached and attached persons, people also look the same. They also act the same. They also will be acting the same way, right? But you do not know what is happening inside their body, what is happening. Inside the mind, what is happening, you don't know. Like that, right? So it might look like they are attached. For example, Prabhupada, he used to wear a golden ring. Somebody might say, you are a sannyasi, you gave up everything. What are you doing wearing this golden ring? Right? So you are easy for you to give up chapatis and give up this and that, but when it comes to gold, you wear it. The mind can think like that, right? But why was he doing it? Somebody gave it to him. And he wanted to honor, and the love with which it was given. Wore it for some time, gave it to somebody else later, right? But if you happen to watch him at the time he's putting on his ring, you might have a wrong idea in your head, right? Similarly, people who are attached, like some of the things that they say to men, especially, like, don't be too attached to your wife. Then what do I do with my wife? Throw her out of the home? No. Then what do I do? If she's in the home, then she'll ask for things, right? Take me out here, take me out there. Let's go out for a walk. Is it wrong to go out for a walk with your spouse? No. You go out to keep your wife happy. Attachment is that when you are enjoying it, like that, and you are eager for it. And if one day you don't go out, then you are miserable, right? No, you are doing it as your duty. You are doing it. If you go out, that's fine. If you have pleasant talks, that's fine. If you don't go out, that is also fine. That is detachment. And attachment is, like how people are attached. I haven't gone to the temple for so many days. Attachment, you're missing him, you're feeling bad, like that. So the way is to attach yourself to Kṛṣṇa. Others' attachments will go away. And although you might think, and devotees are very harsh on yourself, if you really sit back and think, and I would encourage you to do that, and look at your life 10 years ago, and look at the attachments that you had and the feelings that you had, and what feelings you have now for the same people, you will notice there's a difference there. There's nothing wrong in being attached to your parents. There's nothing wrong in loving your parents. Kṛṣṇa consciousness doesn't mean that you stop loving. Kṛṣṇa loves everybody. Right?
Kṛṣṇa loved his own parents also so much.
Yeah, he's demonstrating.
So Mataji, you were talking about the association of the devotee. I mean, that reminds me, I mean, there are certain people you come across and you just feel so nice to be with them, and that makes you so, I mean, make your day a great day. And then certain people around you just make you unhappy. I mean, and then the association, I mean, during this like bhakti process and all that, we come across a people like who shake your confidence too in bhakti. I mean, we try to tell like, okay, like as mentioned in this verse also, that use your body, mind and intelligence towards, but the moment comes when you come across a people who come and shake, I mean, and at that time it feels both bad and miserable, because I mean, in the heart we know like we are in the right path, but at the same time it feels like how weak I am, and that if someone came and shook our confidence on the bhakti process. So I mean, my thing is like, I'm in this path and I'm trying to make myself more strong, and that if someone come and say like, if you're surrounded by non-devotee people, and rather than they changing me, if I have some capability that I change them, like that kind of a strength in heart. I think it's a gradual practice, sadhana, as you mentioned.
Yes. Now, suppose you talked about instability, right? Now, when we are flying in the air, we feel instability, right? And so out of control. Do we?
Yeah.
Have you? Right? And the moment the plane lands on, like suppose you had a stormy weather and the plane was shaking all along, and as you're feeling miserable, and then you, the plane lands and you are on terra firma. Thank you, Satapa Mataji. It was a joy to have you in the class as usual. So, and thank you for staying up so late in the night. So, yeah, so you come on terra firma, which is Mother Earth, right? And you feel good, right? There was a time when I was flying every week in USA, every week from coast to coast. And the plane flights were horrible. They were, I think the weather was like that. The periods that I was flying, it was very, very bad. And I really longed to, so if I had to fly from San Francisco to New York, I would never take the direct flight. I would fly to Chicago, land on Earth, and then take another flight and then fly from there. It was stupid. Nobody wants to do that, but I did it because I was so tired and sick of being in the air and and that instability. So when you're in an unstable position, what was I doing? I was coming to a firm place to find my stability and to go and handle the next instability, which will be the next flight from Chicago to New York or wherever, was the stop. So similarly, when you are faced with a situation where is making you unstable,
Shaky, yeah.
making you unstable, you go for a stable place. So you go to a devotee, call the devotees, right? And here I give the example of, one of the devotees. She lived in an apartment complex, and then she went the kitchen. So some pipes were burst or something like that happened, and then there was smell in her kitchen. Like I think the toilet water and all that started coming there, sewage, whatever that is. It was sinking very badly, and then she reached out to the people there, and she imagined a devotee not able to use the kitchen, right? And so she was very upset with that. And I think she said, give me another room. But the apartment was renovated, so there was no other place for them to move her. So then there was a clause that they would put her up someplace else if something like that happened, but that was only for 1 month. And so they said, we'll put you in a hotel for 1 month. And then, but this renovation work was going to take 3 months. So you pay for the hotel stay for extra 2 months and all that kind of stuff, right? And then she came to the office, talked to some non-devotees, and number one, they can't understand why a person is upset they can't cook in the kitchen, because here you could go out in the morning, starting from Starbucks, you can get everything, right, outside to eat. What is the need for cooking, right? Why are you so upset that the kitchen is going bad? And then they said, okay, oh, this is happening. Oh, this is the what the clause said. Okay, now here are the lawyers, you go to the lawyers. And then she was getting more upset. First there's a stinking smell in the kitchen, and then obnoxious people around you. So more stink, right? And then the lawyer thrown in for good measure over there. So what a broth that was brewing there, right? And then she came and met some of the bhaktas in the evening, right? And the bhakta said, why? Because her main thing was, even if I'm put in a hotel, how will I cook? They were like, we will send food for you. Why are you worried? You first, stay out your 30 days there. Every day we'll give you prasadam. And we gave her so much of prasadam that she had to say, now stop sending prasadam to us, right? And then when she was in a better mood, she went and she negotiated. So it's very important for you to go and associate with people who calm you down and not add fuel to the fire. So it's very important. Just one good friend is enough. You don't need 100 acquaintances around you.
Yeah, so true. Thank you, Mother.
And then this, yes, and I said Shraddha. Shraddha actually is of two kinds. There is strong faith, and then there is a not so weak faith, right? So when the faith is weak, right, they said the weak faith is like a banana tree, right? It's a banana tree. Anybody can shake the banana tree, okay? But through gradual practice, adhav shraddha tatha sadhu sangha tatha bhajana kriya. So when you do all that, then you will get nishtha. You'll also become strong, right? Determination will be there. And then you become like a banyan tree. Nobody can shake a banyan tree.
That's true. Thank
right?
you, Mataji.
That's what you do. Yeah. I saw some hands raised and then they were lowered. I don't recall.
Mataji, it was me actually. I was just, I got curious on Mataji's question. So I just wanted to relate to one of my own incidents where I had faced people where they were coming with their own faith saying that, no, this is better. And there were people who were saying, no, this is Kṛṣṇa is just imagination and everything. And look, if you need facts, you need to go to this person, read this book and all. So I just asked that person one thing, like, what makes you strong at the moment? He says like, yeah, I can relate to that. Like if I want a peace of mind, I read this book because this guy has done so much study. If I want strength of my mind, I go to this person. So I said, okay, so basically you're relating yourself to some people to gather your own beliefs, right? So how about I created, if you say Kṛṣṇa is imagination, I imagine that there is one perfect being who is all powerful and has all qualities that you're searching around. And that is guiding me and making me perfect. And I'm not doing anything different from you. So how is that any different from? He couldn't answer. It's like, yeah, if that helps you, then you can do that. So
You're right. And the interesting thing, one of the interesting things, and this is for Jaya Mataji again, is that Vaisheshika Prabhu always advises that don't try to change your family members. They will never listen to you.
Right.
Whether they are younger than you, kids, or whether they are your equals, the spouse, or brothers and sisters, or their parents. Parents is the worst thing. The worst thing, you cannot change it. So what they suggest in our preaching activities is that you bring somebody from outside, they will listen to that person. But they won't listen to you. Yeah. So what Bhaktankur gave was a very fantastic thing. And then all this kind of rejoinders come from knowledge. And that is why when somebody comes and starts deriding things, then you should be fortified with the knowledge. So bhajana kriya is when you're doing devotional service in the proper manner. A lot of people don't do devotional service in the proper manner. They're doing it just because their parents did it, grandparents did it. They don't have no idea. But the proper way of doing it is to understand the principle behind it. And once you understand what you're doing, you'll be able to defend what you're doing. Right? So that way, knowledge is important. It's also important.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. The answer was really helpful.
Very interesting question, Mataji, because I face these things sometimes. I wanted to also relate one more incident where I was challenged on the religion perspective, like they were talking on religious basis and everything. So suddenly that phrase, I don't remember the shloka from Bhagavad-gita, but I remember where Kṛṣṇa says, like, if you believe in some God, I would not change you. I will let you believe more strongly in that. And that thing came in my mind, and I was like, okay. Then I said to I asked that person, this guy, this thing, like, what is your superhero? So it's like what do you mean? It's like Superman, Batman, who is this? Like, so he said something, and it's like, okay, so mine is Batman. Now would you come around telling me, like, okay, you should only like Superman, or why would you not do that? It's like, well, that's your superhero. It's like, exactly. So I have a superhero called Kṛṣṇa. He has his powers. I like that, and I want to follow that. And you have your Superman, and you like his qualities, so you be stunned that I'm not changing you. So that way, like they were like not really strong on, like, they just let me go. And this happened when some Christian faith followers were coming and ringing doorbells on my door at that time. So it was very annoying, to be honest, but I just used to question them like this, and they would just leave me.
Correct. And as evidence, I'm going to submit the verse that Ankur Prabhu was mentioning. So, ye pyanya dev, this is on the 9th chapter. Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvitaha tepi mameva kaunteya yajanti avidhi purvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods, small g, right? And who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in the wrong way. Period. Kṛṣṇa has clearly said.
Right.
Sarv dharman parityajya mam ekam, me only, sharanam vraja. If you go here and there to demigods, you're doomed.
Right,
Thank you.
One more thing was Mataji, I say, like, if you have a father and several kids, like one kid might like Superman, another like my Batman, then the father has to change different dresses on their birthdays to please them. It's like
that's a very good example.
So I also gave that example to one person, and he was very fascinated. It's like, that's very good enough. So I took it that way, and I said, like, okay, man, like, I love Kṛṣṇa because I like to see my father in this way. So he dresses like that, done. And I didn't trouble me.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, shall we call it a day then on this class? It's way beyond the 7 o'clock stop time.
Oh, but
Where the time went?
Where did the time go?
I know.
File a missing report.
That's in Kṛṣṇa.
Kṛṣṇa must have taken it.
Kṛṣṇa stole it, yeah. Kṛṣṇa is very good at stealing butter. He steals everything, yeah.
It's a wonderful class, Mataji. I like that. What is that? Is that sloka you read, the tune? I like that one, Mataji. Not Chetodarpanavanjanam. Is that
Shri Vishnu Shravani Parikshita Bhagut Sakir Kirtane.
Which one is that, Mataji?
I remember Prabhupada is always in the temple, they play that tune. I like that. He does it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, it's one of the meters, yeah.
Yes. Kṛṣṇa, what is it? Kṛṣṇa. I'm not getting now.
She's sending it to us, I think.
Thanks, Mataji.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll post it there, yeah.
Kṛṣṇa Kirtana.
Yeah, it's the same. Krishna Kirtana Gana Nartana Bhajo. Right, it's the same tune. Same tune. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhavama. This is known as Shandulya. You know, it's like, goes like that, like a swan. Shri Krishna Smarane Parikshita Bhavut. Like, yeah. Yeah, Sanskrit is melodious.
Oh, that tune it up.
It's one of the Gopi Geet, right, Mataji?
This one, no.
No, not this one.
Gopi Geet is different.
Not Guruvashtakam.
Which one? That is Shad Goswami Ashtakam.
Shad Goswami.
Okay.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, if there are no more questions or comments, then we'll call it a day here. Thank you so much for joining the class, and we will meet again on Sunday morning for those of you who are brave. And we'll get up at 6:30. Nowadays it's summers, it's not too difficult, right?
Oh God, for us, the cloud and rain, it's not getting it summer at all. No sun. East Coast.
See, that's what the mind says. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.